Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. For those of you who are joining us, we will have a shorter video session today because we've been talking for the last about 20 minutes about social connections, especially for parents and the challenges that they can have in finding those social connections, especially if there is something unique about them, whether they're going through a challenging marriage or they have postpartum depression, or they have a child with a special need, or they're new to the area or something like that. And how valuable those connections can be, yet the challenge that they can have in finding some of those connections. Um, Nancy, you were going to say something.
Oh, um, well, I guess what I was thinking, and I was saying before we started recording, was that this conversation is very valuable, I think, about talking about ways to visualize what our parents experience. And Ellen, maybe you can kind of do a quick
Mhm.
repeat of your visual strategy,
Yeah.
visual,
So what I kind of shared is that I have a mom who, two kids, a husband cheated on her when she was pregnant with her second. He said it was a work person. Turned out it wasn't a work person. She found out in the last several weeks it was a Tinder situation. And also there's another one called Ashley Madison or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So okay, and then he's just kind of a classic narcissist, right? She came home one day, she said, none of my coworkers like me. Why don't they like me? And he went into this whole thing about why maybe they didn't like her. So he's just not a very nice man. And obviously she said, I don't want to leave him. He's the father of my children. And I was like, okay, I can't tell her what to do. Um, but a colleague of mine shared that this is kind of baseline happiness, basically. And we ebb and flow, right? So we have moments that we're like, yay, happy joy. And then we kind of drop down and we're a little sad and happy, but our baseline is mostly middle, right? So when we're feeling healthy, we're kind of here. People who are like hard situations, dealing with an abusive partner or whatever, they never get above this baseline, right? Like they're always right here and they kind of hit this ceiling of sadness. Basically, is how my colleague's therapist explained it. So this is why mom's in this situation. She can't even imagine herself up here, right? She can't even imagine what life might be like if she is a single mom. Yeah, she's away from this narcissistic jerk. She can't even imagine herself up here because she's just stuck down here.
Yeah, and we were talking about different, because as Susan pointed out, she said that sometimes, counselors, social workers, or someone that she knows experienced that a lot of their recommendations for groups, a circle of supportive people, right? They're trying to make a referral for a circle of supportive people, but many of those circles or groups that people that might be referred to have a tendency, everyone's down here. So how do they have an experience where they're encountering and being with people who are up here? And we could say that ECFE provides that, I think. I mean, I've been trying to do a better job of surveying my parents at the beginning and the end because I'm trying to find a way to measure what we do for our district, for planning, for purposeful, right, reflection. And so I'm asking them what are their goals, what are their needs. I'm trying to be way more purposeful about that at the beginning and the end. And many of them talk about this need for social connection. And sometimes they'll start with their child. They want their child to have those social connections. But the parents who have been in class maybe a time or two, or some of them for 4 or 5 years, are feeling more confident about saying, I'm looking for social connection too. And that's my goal. And I think, well, that's an easy goal for us to meet in ECFE, right?
Right.
But maybe I do need to think more about some of these parents who present situations that they're in, and they don't want to impact the tone of the group discussion, maybe sometimes too. So they're maybe hesitant to share, I'm having a hard time with my marriage, or whatever. Um, but so for me to one-on-one with them at some opportunity to offer groups in addition to ECFE that might help them encounter people that are up here and can still be a positive circle of, maybe it's a circle of women, maybe it's a support thing that isn't just women, but I sure see the value in a supportive circle of women for moms.
Right.
Okay, there's my summary, I think, of what we've been talking about.
Well, and I think that just about back about the MED students and the parenting ed students, and I think about this woman who was talking about wanting to go back to school, but not having, like it's an effort. You guys all know that, right? I mean, you have busy lives, you got busy, and many of the students are working full time, or maybe they're working or they have part-time jobs, they've got 4 kids, whatever. But still, adding those online classes, and whether it's, 1 class or 3 classes or whatever, is quite a bit. But I think that one of those benefits of being part of a group of people who are going through that same sort of reach opportunity that you are, is it's like you see them doing it, and then you find that and so I think that the groups that are going about the trauma that people have experienced, right, that's where you might find other individuals that are kind of stuck and may or may not be motivating. But if you, because I'm fascinated with the sort of idea of women's identity, right? And so if there's sort of that connection with who you want to be, right? Who you want to identify as, that can be, and especially that's again another wonderful thing I thought about the parent ed program is the majority of learners in that program were demographically scary in the sense that they were very similar. And there's value in that, because a lot of us, if we go back to school, my husband just took an undergraduate course in French at the U, and he's like this 67-year-old dude taking classes with 20-year-olds, you know? And so our higher education or our additional education experience oftentimes will find us in these huge demographic things, right? Where we're not similar to other people, and we may be accepted or not accepted, or we care, we don't care. But I think, again, a value of something like the parent ed program is so many of the women who were in the program were very similar in interest, in demographics, in, generally most have families, whatever, And so I just think about this individual and the value of her, if she can go back to school, that maybe that's where she'll find that identity group that will like keep her up here. Because our fear is that because there's so many stresses in life between finances and kids and neighborhoods and political administrations and everything, that makes it so easy if you're just up here to like come back down. Yeah.
I'm curious, how many of you who have been in a therapeutic clinical relationship, seen a psychologist, a therapist, have ever shared when it came up, and it was appropriate, that you can relate to the fact that getting above that threshold is hard? I always
Sarah, can I clarify? You're talking about self-disclosure then, about your own experiences?
About my own experience, but to encourage the parents that I'm working with. I get that it's what you're going through is really hard, and using Ellen's visual, it's like you want to get up here, and it's tough. I've been there. I always struggle with am I sharing too much? Even
it shows,
saying, I've been through
that you're
that.
human. Yeah. I just think saying I've been where you are, and it's hard. I don't, you don't have to, you can say what, you can say, I've been through some tough times, and it's really tough. I don't think you have to, be like, when I honestly, I love it when parents say, well, my therapist told me, oh, I love that, because they're admitting they're going to therapy, they're sharing strategies, they're using them. It normalizes therapy. I really like it when they share. But for us, I I did some sessions with a
Right.
pastor after a friend of mine was dealing with some alcohol, drugs and alcohol. So I can't really count what it wasn't as it was in therapy. But, I have shared like I've gone through something similar and it's tough. And I think that's all I really need to say to be like, yeah, I've been where you are and it's hard work and it's rotten.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's over disclosure to let them know that you do get it.
Mhm.
And it's not that much. You're not sharing a ton of details.
Right.
If you can't share it in 30 seconds or less, that's kind of my
Oh.
rule.
So
That's a good
Ellen,
point.
I'll push you on that more just because I've done that. And then I've been in scenarios where somebody will come back because they're so hungry for support that they would say, "Can you tell me more? Would you tell me more about what you've been through?" Or they're suspicious that you're just sort of, and this is not you. This is just like general when people are in need. Because as I just noted, I do think that this topic of self-disclosure is a very important topic. And I completely agree with everything that you're saying. And I've been very open in all of my teaching, all my classes, and easily will say I've been in therapy, or my therapist said this or whatever, for exactly that same reason. And so just sort of pushing this a little bit farther. So how do you respond if somebody asks you to divulge more information? They want to know what you've been through, or is it similar to what they've been through? So just general, I mean, you can answer this however you want to, or anybody else.
You're muted.
Yeah, it would totally depend on how long I knew the parent. You know what I mean? It would really be dependent if I knew them long, if some families are needier. So I would be hesitant to talk, for lack of a better word. I would be hesitant to share that with a needier family. Or I would just say, I don't know that a parent would ever, I don't know, I've never had that happen where they ask for more, but I might be just like, you know what, the focus is on you right now. We're not going to focus on me. Just know that it's, I've been there and I can empathize with you. I think I would maybe just be like, no, we're good, but it would really depend on the situation and what it was. And I'd be hesitant to go any deeper because I think that self-disclosing that I've been where you are and I know it's hard is very different from, well, let me tell you all about my problems. That's
Yeah.
super fine line.
Right.
Right. Because what we want to avoid
Mhm.
is we don't want to turn it so now it becomes about us.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
I feel like I don't necessarily share specifically about therapy, but I do talk about the human condition of suffering, and we have different ways we walk through life, and we're not guaranteed not suffering. So we all have different things that we're walking through, and it requires support sometimes from others, or it requires us digging deep or finding a therapist or finding a good book that you're just going to, or, kind of go that route with situations like that. Yeah, because I might not have I have a hard time with the words I've been there because I don't feel like that's fair. I personally just say that, wow, that sounds hard. And I remember going through some hard stuff too. Different, of course. I don't know all the ins and outs of what you're going through. It just sounds, and I don't know. Those are kind of the words that come to me when I'm in class with people and trying to find resources for that. I don't know, Ellen and Susan. I don't know. Because not everyone has a therapist.
Mm-mm.
Well, right.
I try to generalize it into something a little bit broader. I don't know, but
Yeah. I
Nancy.
mean, I think none of us would falsify that we've experienced something that we haven't. You know what I mean? None of
Yeah,
us.
no. I'm just saying, I guess I have a hard time saying those words.
Yeah.
Because I think in a time when I was in a hard time, people
Mhm.
were saying.
Same. I mean, there's not very
And I-
many instances where I really can, like a divorce, parent. I haven't experienced a lot of terrible things. So honestly, my list of things that I've dealt with is pretty small. So right, I wouldn't be able to say I've experienced this. What often I will say is I've had families experience this before. Because I have. How many times have you had a family and you're like, this is not the first time I've heard this. And it was really hard for them and it'll be hard for you. And, here's what they did, or they went to therapy, or they did this, or they joined this group. You know what I mean? So I really more lean on the experience of others and say, I had a family who did this to help with this. And I had a family. So that's what I lean on way more than my own.
Just around this table, it was a couple
Yep.
months ago.
100%.
In a
Yeah.
different class, this topic came up. Or, that I love taking the wealth of the community, even if it's not their specific community, to say, you are not alone, even if nobody there right now is experiencing this, that historically in this space is just a couple years ago, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think that's so rich because I am limited, but the community and the years of ECFE
Right.
have so much depth and
So much
variety. Yeah.
I had a parent recently share something pretty personal, and I like to just say thank you for trusting us with that. I just think that is just very affirming. I don't know if it's exactly along the lines of what we're talking about, but someone had said that with a group that I was in once, and I just thought that just really stuck with me. So I do say that in those instances where a parent feels comfortable sharing something pretty personal. So just wanted to let you know that too.
Yeah, this week one of my parents who I think she feels like that some of the rest of them look up to her about some aspects of, some of her experiences, but she disclosed to us about a situation with her son and accessing some things online that he shouldn't have, because she's really worked hard to. She even called school and said, so this must have happened at school. And she ended up swallowing those words too. And she was disclosing all this to them. And, and I could tell she was looking at me like, oh boy, did I just impact everybody's perception of me? And so what I said to her was that, that you're not the first person to experience this, and you're certainly not the first parent or the last parent to confront this. It's a growing, so that kind of loosened everybody up a little bit and her too, instead of feeling like, ugh, what did I just do? So yeah. What parent doesn't is what I wanted to say, but I decided not to confront. Oh my gosh, despite my best efforts, I thought I was keeping him safe by limiting this, that, the other thing, going on to Common Sense Media, which I, point in the direction of all the time when questions like this come up. Despite all that, she said he's super smart. Unfortunately, ADHD and other diagnoses that, some of the parents in that room might say, well, you should have taught, they wouldn't say it out loud even, but they would intimate that in their responses. So she has told us about all the things she does and has encouraged parents to look into those things. And they did a really great job. They all kind of looked at her, many of them looked at her and said, okay, my kids aren't in that age group yet. I don't have anybody at that 13, 14-year-old age. Mine are all really little. And this is opening my eyes to things in a way that what I say doesn't do, like their personal experiences. So like you're saying, Ellen, it's really valuable when they're feeling comfortable enough to share their experiences and be a resource to each other. I tell you guys do too, I'm sure. At the beginning of every class, I say, we're going to do a lot of really great things. We're going to learn some things, but what you get out of this really is up to you, because the more we share with each other and start to feel comfortable with each other, you're going to find some of the most valuable things are shared by people in the group, not by me. I'm not always right or know the right answer, or I'm fallible. I'm not the perfect parent. So it is a good topic to talk about, Susan. I agree with you. And I think sometimes we feel guilty about slips we make, maybe, in this area where we also share something where we think, oh my gosh. I mean, I've had, when I've had student teachers in the area of parent education, it's a topic that often comes up because they'll have shared something and then later maybe wishing they hadn't, because they find out they probably shouldn't be disclosing so much as the parent educator.
Well, and I think that it's also the disclosure of other people's experiences, right? That gets tricky, right? Where, like, sharing generally other people, I'm as a longtime educator, I've heard other experiences similar to this and, that kind of thing. Versus, and this is extreme, but just last week, there was a mom in my Tuesday class that said,
Okay.
yeah, I know. And because it's, we can innocently think it's a way of making those connections, but at the same time is also divulging people's personal information, right? And even if it's something that happened a year ago or 3 years ago, is that reminder to ourselves that it's a small community, right?
Mhm.
And people will talk, and there are parents, there are people who, again, if they're why are soap operas or why is things like, watching celebrity gossip and stuff like that so interesting? Because if we can't get out and we don't have a very exciting life because we're just doing the day-to-day of life, sometimes reading gossip can be kind of fun and kind of exciting, right? And get our adrenaline going. And so, and there are people who can glom onto that about other people in their community as well, right? And so I think it's also good, especially, very early on, we were talking about some of the educators who were taking on student teachers for the first time, and I think that those are some of the sort of self-disclosure, but then also being the arbiter of stories about other people, that in our attempt to be soothing and comforting and that kind of thing. And I will admit, I am very, very sensitive to this myself, is like, how do you share information to be supportive about another person's experience without sharing too much? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Susan. I think I'm still a work in progress in my learning about that. Yeah. Mhm.
And I'll sometimes just say some like, I've had parents who blah, like I don't, like our families who have blah. Like if I think it's really, I use the phrase, especially in the toddlers, a lot, I'm like, he is not the first kid to do that, and he won't be the last, when they're throwing things or they're biting, I'm like, "Oh, so that happens a lot in here, I just find myself normalizing everything. Then usually it's like, yeah, or like we have a ball pit, like we have like a plastic swimming pool full of balls. And sometimes kids come in and they roll in them, and other kinds of kids come in and they flip that whole thing up. Balls go everywhere, and the parents are so embarrassed. And I was like, trust me, that is not the first time that has happened. We wouldn't have it here if we didn't like picking up 85 balls, So like it just, a little bit of humor, a little bit of this is what they do. I think that just helps calm people down, especially if they haven't been around and they haven't been with people, and their first experience coming and hanging out is, and I think I have a mom right now who her her therapist told her to come. She's like, I think UCF will be really good for you. And she was so nervous. And she said, I almost threw up in the parking lot. Like she was so scared to come. But apparently, and Greta, this goes kind of back to what you said. Like, what did I say? What did I do? And now she's hardcore. And she's just, this is her third year. She loves coming. She's had another baby. And she's like, it felt so good to be in a place where we were welcomed and my kid wasn't the only kid doing weird things, you know. And she said, you just made everything seem so welcoming. I was like, what did I do? What did I say? I don't remember, you know. But maybe it might have been something like, oh yeah, oh no, he's fine. He can make a mess. He can throw paint on the floor. No big deal. We clean it up for you. No, so
I feel like when you're describing it, it makes me think we are combating the anxiety of young parents of young children. Like we are dismissing this need to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to have our child do certain things in a certain pattern and specific way. And we're saying we're normalizing it. And I feel like parents come in and they exhale instead of they might come in tight, but maybe by the end they exhale. I feel like there's some sort of a marketing thing we could do here in this age of anxiety that come to ECFE, let go of your anxiety, just join the group, come be with us. We will accept you. We love you already. I don't know. There's something there.
I love that. ECFE, where we already love you.
Exhale. I love that too.
Yeah, like let's
Yeah.
acronym. Come on, Susan, pull together another acronym. ECFE is where you can exhale,
Feelings of extreme
feel excellent.
yeah, it's good because okay, so here we go all the way around. So this is why we develop a name above the line, because all of us can be above the line, right? Of what we were talking about earlier. The name, what we identify with, is that we are all already loved and accepted right here. You can come and be exactly who you are. And I enjoy saying that. We just wrapped up the semester this week. And my phrase to start us off was, let's come into this place remembering there are no perfect parents. There's no way to be a perfect parent. Just come as you are. Be who you are as a parent. And that is an exhale for so many that come. And yeah, I think it's actually probably critical in this generation because there's so much that's anxiety filled.
Well, and I think sometimes I have a mom with MS who has a really busy 3-year-old, and she's probably, you know, she's got a lot of sensory things, and we're working with the family. But mom was really hurting last week, like she was moving slow. Excuse me. And so her daughter climbed on the wagon, and I was like, "You want a wagon ride? Let's go." So I took her wagon all the way down the hall. And then we started to go outside. She goes, "Are you going to help me bring her outside?" I was like, "Sure, she's in the wagon. Let's go." So then I helped her get in our car seat, and she was, you know, she was being a 2x4, not getting in the car seat. So I was helping get her in the car seat, you know, because I don't know, like, no, I just did it. And she was like, "I can't, thank you so much." And I could see her like tearing up. She's like, "I'm just in so much pain today." And I'm like, no big deal. Wagon ride. And she's like, "You don't have your coat." It was a really cold day. And I was like, "I'm fine," you know. But just little things like that too, meet them where they are, you know, kind of like what you said, Susan, earlier, like meeting them where they are. And, you know, it's just sometimes that little extra, it doesn't even take much. It's not whatever. I think they think that we do these things a lot. And I don't think they realize that we do these things a lot, but that's what makes early childhood people so much fun. I think that's why we're a fun bunch. We're not
I
faced by
agree.
much.
I agree. And I wanted to mention, I know I don't know how many of you have that Connecting to Learn curriculum, but it was just a lifesaver for me when I kind of got back into this. And there's a lesson that I did for the first time this week. It's called Belonging. And it's like raising welcoming, empathetic, and inclusive children. And the opener is parents have to kind of think of their identity, whether that's their cultural background, the language they speak, their gender, hobbies, job, religious beliefs, whatever. And then they have to kind of think of a time that their identity made them feel positive and also a time where it did not. And a lot of things kind of came out of that. Oh, bye, Greta.
I have to boogie. Sorry, I have a meeting. Have a good
Nice to
week.
see you.
Bye. Sorry, missed you.
And anyway, so Jen and Becca have that little, they have that little video clip that they share some extra tips, and they just say how, ECFE is such a place where parents can come and feel welcome and not judged. And so it's just a nice time to kind of reiterate that. That's why we're here. We all come with different, even if you don't see the differences, we all are different inside, things that we have, but we can celebrate those differences and the similarities. And it's, it just kind of goes with what we were talking about a little bit. So, yes, cheers to us.
Yeah,
I wanted to say one more quick thing. Sorry, I know we're getting to the end, but one awesome thing is we finally have a baby class going here in Jordan. Yay! We have not had one go since before COVID, and it's so fun. And like being in a room with babies is like the best. And it's just been huge.
How many are coming, Katie? How many have been coming?
So we have 6 coming that are actually registered, and then we have drop-in is an option, but unfortunately we haven't really had a lot of drop-ins. I hope we do get more, but and we're doing it at the community center because the problem is we haven't been able to offer it in the morning because our classrooms are all being used. So we're doing it at our nice new community center. So it's kind of fun to have it somewhere else.
And then you can do that because you just need chairs for adults. You don't need a play space. You don't need, you know what I mean? That's what's nice about. Yeah.
Yeah. I basically am using like mats from the preschool playtime. I got floor pillows.
Awesome.
Somebody donated like these beautiful little quilts that we just throw down. And it's been like last Wednesday, I was like walking on an air. I was so freaking excited. It was just the best. Like,
remind me, what age did you cap it at? Are you doing newborn? Or are you?
I would love to be able to just do the newborn, but
Yeah.
Jordan is just it's small, and we just don't have enough people or enough families to just focus it on the newborn right now. So it's open to birth to 12 months. So we've got some new ones. We've got 2 that are like 10 months kind of crawling, and it's okay. Like it works, and yeah, it's been so good. So thank you, Ellen. She let me come down and observe her class a couple months ago. So it's fun to see Ellen in action. So yeah, that was very fun.
I'm excited.
I normally can't make it to this group because I have an infants class from 11 to 12:30, and I love my infants class so much that I will not give that up, even to be here more regularly. So
I understand. I do.
I understand, Sarah. We're glad that you could join us today.
Yeah.
And when you're not here, we're thinking of you with babies.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you, Sarah.
Good to see you guys. Hopefully I'll be able to make it again soon.
Yay.
Ellen, I'll try to remember to copy that lesson out of that curriculum. And
sure. Yeah. I just have that copy because I'm doing that topic in a couple weeks. I kind of want the curriculum.
Recording.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I can email it out to whoever wants.
Just want that one. Just that one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, friends. Have a good long weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.